Welcome to Science for Sleepy Minds. I'm glad you're here, exactly as you are, with whatever kind of day you've carried to the edge of your night. If you feel tired in a way that sits in your shoulders, or behind your eyes, or deep in your chest, you don't have to fix it right now. You can simply arrive. You can let the bed do its quiet work. You can let the room hold you. Tonight, we're taking a new gentle tour through the deep biological systems keeping you alive, not in a dramatic way, not in an urgent way, more like noticing a soft lantern glow in a window and realizing someone inside has been keeping the home warm all along. Your body has its own quiet caretakers, its own steady routines, and most of them continue whether you pay attention or not. And just so you know from the beginning, it's completely okay if you fall asleep at any moment. You don't need to catch every detail, you don't need to remember. If your mind drifts away, the story can keep going without you, like rain on the roof or a faraway tide. You're safe to let go. Nothing here is a test, nothing here is urgent. The science will be slow, friendly, and easy to follow. And whenever we speak of systems that keep you alive, we'll keep it gentle. This isn't about danger, it's about care, maintenance, balance, the quiet intelligence that has been with you since before you knew its name. So settle in any position that feels kind. Let your eyes stay closed if they want to. Let the darkness be soft around you. This channel is here for relaxation as much as learning. You're welcome to listen like you'd listen to a calm voice in the next room, not needing to respond, not needing to do anything. If you enjoy these sleepy science wanderings, you can like the video or subscribe, but only if it feels easy. And if it doesn't, that's perfectly fine. We'll return to quiet, now gently. Let's give your body a little permission to unwind. Take a slow breath in whatever way is natural for you, and then let it out without pushing. Another breath, like a tide sliding into a moonlit bay, and then slipping back out again. No counting necessary, no perfect rhythm required, just noticing that the breath is happening and that it can be gentle. As you breathe, you might let your jaw loosen as if it's remembering it doesn't need to hold any words tonight. Let your tongue rest softly, not pressing, not working. Let your forehead smooth out as if warm water is passing over it, taking away tiny creases of effort. And if it feels comfortable, allow your shoulders to drop just a little, as if they've decided they can trust the mattress. Let your hands unclench in their own time. Fingers can curl or open whatever they want, like leaves settling on a still branch. Now, drift your attention down through the body in a slow, friendly way, not scanning for problems, just visiting. Notice your chest rising and falling and thank it for keeping room for breath. Notice your belly doing its quiet movements and thank it for carrying you through the day. Notice your hips and legs, the long structures that brought you from place to place, and allow them to feel heavy, supported, and down to your feet, which spend so much time holding you up and now can finally rest. If your mind is busy, that's okay too. Minds can be like little lanterns bobbing on water, sometimes clustering, sometimes drifting apart. You don't have to chase thoughts away. You can let them float and return to the simple feeling of being here. Imagine a warm light in the distance, steady and small. Imagine quiet waves, not crashing, just arriving. Imagine slow snowfall, soft and patient, touching the world without needing anything from it. And while you rest, your body keeps doing what it has always done, quietly, faithfully. Now let's set a scene very gently. Picture the room you're in as if it's a little observatory at night. Not an observatory with sharp metal and bright alarms, but a peaceful one. A place devoted to calm observation. The lights are low, the air is still. Outside, the world has turned down its volume. Inside, you can hear the softest hints of life, if you listen for them. The whisper of breath, the subtle rhythm of the heart, the warmth under a blanket that feels like a small weather system, contained and kind. In this soft observatory, your body is the instrument itself, not something you have to operate, but something that gently runs. It measures and adjusts, it balances and restores. It makes tiny decisions thousands of times without needing you to supervise, and that's what keeping you alive really is. It's not alarms, it's not urgency, it's regulation. It's the steady work of returning to a comfortable range again and again, like a needle settling toward the center after a small movement. We'll start with things you already know intimately, even if you've never named them. The breath moving, the heartbeat flowing, the sense of warmth in your skin. And we'll follow those familiar sensations into the deeper biology behind them slowly, as if we're walking through quiet hallways with soft carpet underfoot. So let's begin with the simplest, most present companion you have right now, your breathing. Notice how it feels to breathe tonight. Maybe it's shallow, maybe it's deep, maybe it pauses, then continues. There's no wrong way to breathe while resting. Breaths can be like a hammock rocking gently. Sometimes it swings a little more, sometimes it barely moves, and still it holds you. What happens when air enters you? In a simple sense, it's just air in, air out. Oxygen arriving, carbon dioxide leaving. A slow trade like a peaceful nighttime market where nothing is rushed and nothing is loud. You offer something you don't need, and you receive something your cells can use. Again and again. As you breathe in, the air travels down through your nose or mouth and into the throat and toward the chest. If you imagine it, you can picture the inside of you like a quiet tree turned upside down. One trunk then branching and branching again. The trachea divides into two main bronchi, one for each lung, and those split into smaller bronchioles, finer and finer pathways like twigs. At the ends of those small branches are tiny air sacs called alveoli. You don't need to hold the word tightly, you can let it be a soft sound in the dark. Alveoli are very small, very numerous, and very gentle in their job. If your lungs are a tree, these are the leaves. If your lungs are a night sky, these are a field of little lanterns. Each one is a place where the real exchange happens, and the exchange is surprisingly quiet, and oxygen doesn't have to be pushed through a doorway with force. It simply drifts. It diffuses. Diffusion is one of the loveliest ideas in biology because it reminds you that not everything requires effort. Sometimes molecules simply move from where there is more of them to where there is less. They spread out. They even themselves. Like a gentle scent of tea drifting through a room. Like warmth moving from a heating pad into the cool space of your hands. It's not dramatic. It's steady. So in the alveoli, oxygen is present in the air you've brought in. On the other side, there's blood flowing through tiny capillaries, those delicate little vessels that are like shorelines. Blood arrives with less oxygen, more carbon dioxide, and because of those differences, oxygen drifts across the thin membrane into the blood, and carbon dioxide drifts the other way, back into the alveoli, ready to be exhaled. You don't have to do anything to make this happen. The structure is already there, the gradient is already there, the drift is already there. If you're still awake, you might notice how comforting that is. Your body is full of processes that happen because the world has rules, and your body has learned to use them, like a sailboat using wind, like a seed using gravity. Now imagine, for a moment, the blood as a quiet river passing beneath those leaf-like air sacs. In that river are red blood cells, and inside them is a beautiful molecule called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is like a careful courier. You can think of it as a set of gentle hands ready to carry oxygen, or like lantern hooks ready to hold small lights. Oxygen binds to hemoglobin, and then those red blood cells travel outward through your body, delivering the oxygen where it's needed. You don't need to picture it as a race. It's more like mail delivery in a sleepy town, a steady route, a familiar pattern. No panic, just reliable movement. And what happens to that oxygen when it reaches tissues? Again, diffusion. Again, quiet drifting. Oxygen leaves the blood where it's more concentrated and moves into the cells where it's less. Meanwhile, carbon dioxide, made by cells as they use energy, drifts back into the blood. A gentle exchange, like two people passing each other on a quiet path, each carrying something different. If your mind wants a little wonder, you can let yourself have it, because in this moment while you lie still, oxygen is moving into you, like tiny invisible guests arriving at the door of every cell, and they are welcomed, not with applause, but with chemistry. Now you might ask a simple question, almost like a child asking from the dark. How does your body know how much to breathe? Sometimes people assume breathing is mostly controlled by oxygen levels, but for everyday breathing, your body pays close attention to carbon dioxide and the acidity of your blood, something called pH. And the wonderful thing is, you don't have to monitor it. You have sensors. Your brain stem, a very old and steady part of the brain, listens to the chemistry of your blood in a quiet way. It adjusts your breathing like a dimmer switch in a hallway, turning things up or down just enough. If carbon dioxide rises, your breathing tends to become a little deeper or more frequent, gently clearing it. If carbon dioxide lowers, the system eases off. It's not an argument. It's a conversation, a quiet, constant conversation. You can imagine this as your body's way of keeping the room comfortable. A thermostat doesn't panic when the temperature shifts. It simply responds. It nudges things back toward balance. And tonight, as you rest, the system is leaning into calm. Less effort is needed. The breath can be smaller, slower, more spacious. If you ever feel like you have to consciously control your breathing when you're anxious, it can be soothing to remember this. Your body already knows. The automatic systems are there like a gentle undercurrent. You can cooperate with them, but you are not required to steer every moment. Isn't it comforting that you don't have to remember to breathe even in sleep? You can let that thought land softly, like a leaf settling on water. Now, just for a few breaths, see if you can feel the bottom of the exhale. Not forcing it longer, just noticing the little moment when the breath finishes and the next one begins. That tiny pause can feel like the quiet between waves, a space where nothing is demanded. If your mind wanders, it's okay. Minds wander the way smoke curls. You can return gently to the steady exchange. Air comes in, oxygen drifts, blood carries, carbon dioxide returns. Air goes out, a simple loop, a soft circle, and while that circle continues, we can widen our view slightly, still staying cozy, still staying gentle, and begin to notice the next companion in your night. The rhythm of your heart. If you place attention somewhere near your chest, you might sense it faintly, or you might hear it in your ear against a pillow. Or you might not notice it at all, and that's fine too. It doesn't need your attention to do its work. Think of your heartbeat as a distant dree, not calling you to action, simply keeping time, a metronome in the background of your life. Present, steady, patient. The heart is a pump, yes, but you don't have to picture it as mechanical or harsh. You can picture it as a warm living muscle, squeezing and releasing with a gentle strength. It has chambers and it has valves, and those valves open and close like soft doors that never slam. Blood moves through these chambers in a smooth route. It comes in, it goes out, it circulates, over and over, like a river completing its loop and returning to the sea. Your blood vessels are a branching system, like waterways across a green landscape. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, and they tend to have a slightly stronger pulse, a little more push, because they're closer to the pump. Veins bring blood back, often with the help of gentle muscle squeezes in the body, like quiet hands guiding water along a channel, and in between, connecting everything, are capillaries. They are very small and very numerous, like the tiniest streams and shorelines. This is where exchange happens again. Oxygen and nutrients leaving the blood to enter tissues, carbon dioxide and waste moving back to be carried away. It's like the shoreline where the ocean meets the land and trades gifts with the sand. If you've ever felt your hands warm up under a blanket, that warmth is partly the story of circulation. Blood carrying heat around, adjusting where it goes. And your body does this with such gentle intelligence. It changes blood vessel width, a process called vasodilation or vasoconstriction, to manage flow and temperature. Again, you don't need to pronounce those words perfectly. You can let them float by like soft technical clouds. The meaning is simple. Vessels can open a little wider or narrow a little, and this helps regulate pressure and warmth. Blood pressure can sound like a serious phrase, but doesn't have to be. In this calm frame, blood pressure is simply the gentle force of your inner river against the vessel walls, enough to keep blood moving. Not too much, not too little, and the body has quiet reflexes to keep it within a comfortable range. There are sensors, especially in the neck and the chest, that notice how much the vessel walls are stretching. These are part of a system often called the baroreceptor reflex. You can imagine them as tiny guardians, not standing on alert with harsh lights, but simply observing like night watch keepers in a peaceful town. If pressure rises, the system softens the heart's output a bit, relaxes vessels a bit, guiding things back. If pressure dips, it nudges the other way. Again, not a drama. A gentle correction, a steady hand on the steering wheel. And hovering over all of this is a beautiful partnership, the autonomic nervous system. You can think of it as two caretakers with different jobs. One is more active, helping you move, respond, wake up and meet the day. That's often called the sympathetic side. The other caretaker is more restorative, helping you rest, digest and recover. That's often called the parasympathetic side. Tonight, as you lie here, you may be shifting toward that restorative caretaker. Breath can slow, heart rate can ease, digestion can quietly continue. The body turns its attention to repair and balance, like a household settling into nighttime routines, and you do not have to command any of it. What would it feel like to trust your inner river to flow on its own? You don't have to answer. The question can simply be a soft stone dropped into still water, making small ripples that fade. If you're still awake, take a moment to notice how your body is already doing so much without asking anything from you. Breath trading gases quietly, blood moving warmth and oxygen, sensors adjusting, systems coordinating. It's not noisy, it's not forceful, it's tender in its own way. And if you drift now, if your attention blurs at the edges, that's okay. You can let the details soften. You can let the words become background music. Your body will keep the beat, keep the flow, keep the exchange. Let's rest here for a few more breaths with the simplest rhythm. In and out. A quiet tide, a steady river, a warm, living observatory, dim and peaceful, measuring and balancing in the dark. You don't need to remember everything, you don't need to try. You can simply be here, and if sleep comes close, you can let it. If you're still awake, you're doing perfectly well. There's no need to hurry towards sleep, and no need to push yourself to stay alert either. You can simply float in the middle, letting the words come and go like a slow current. Your body can keep doing its quiet work, whether you're listening closely or only half listening or not listening at all. Take a moment, if you like, to feel the place where you're supported, the mattress beneath you, leather and patient, the blanket resting over you like a gentle layer of warmth, the air around your face, cool or warm, simply present, and somewhere inside that familiar exchange of breath and that steady river of circulation continuing without effort. Now we can drift a little deeper into the hidden systems, still keeping everything soft, still keeping everything safe. Because behind breathing and blood flow, there is another network, even quieter in its own way, that ties everything together. Your nervous system. You can begin with something very simple and familiar. Maybe you notice a little warmth in your hands, or a heaviness in your legs, or a faint tingling where fabric touches skin. Maybe you notice how your face feels when it relaxes, how the eyes settle back, how the jaw unhooks. These are not problems to solve. They're messages. They're your body's soft language. The nervous system is the way your body communicates with itself. It's a system of sensing and responding, of noticing and adjusting, and most of it is designed to be quiet. It doesn't want to interrupt you with every tiny update. It just keeps the whole inner world coordinated, like a gentle conductor guiding a calm orchestra. If you picture it, you might imagine long thin cells called neurons stretching through the body like delicate threads. A neuron can be like a quiet wire, except it's alive. It has a shape with branches at one end that receive messages and a longer part that sends messages onward. And it doesn't carry out messages the way a metal wire carries a steady flow. It carries quick pulses, little waves of electricity that travel along its length. Even that word, electricity, doesn't have to feel sharp or startling. In the body, it's more like a tiny sparkle that moves and then disappears, a soft blink, a brief signal, and when the signal reaches the end of a neuron, it doesn't usually jump directly into the next neuron. There's a small gap, a tiny space. This is called a synapse. At the synapse, the message becomes chemical. The neuron releases little molecules called neurotransmitters into the gap, and those molecules drift across and bind to the next cell, like a whispered note passed hand to hand in a quiet room. So the nervous system speaks in two languages at once. Electrical pulses along the neuron like a quick glide. Chemical whispers between neurons like a soft exchange. And this happens constantly, with a kind of effortless coordination. When you move a finger, when you feel the blanket, when you hear a distant sound, when you remember a memory, when you have a thought, when your heart speeds up slightly and then slows again, the nervous system is involved. Not as a single command, but as a wide network of gentle influences. It can be soothing to remember that the brain is not one single commander sitting in a control room staring at screens. It's more like a choir, a collection of different regions, each with their own roles, working together. There's the brain stem, deep and steady, handling the basics that keep you going without asking permission. Breathing rhythm, heart rate adjustments, the simple housekeeping of staying alive. There's the cortex, the larger outer layer, which handles more complex thoughts, planning, language, imagination. It's the part that can tell stories, including the stories that sometimes keep us awake. And there are structures that work with emotion and memory, often described in broad terms as the limbic system. These help decide what feels important, what feels safe, what feels familiar. None of these parts is you alone. You are the whole, and the whole is a collaboration. And one of the sweetest truths about the nervous system is that so much of it is automatic. You don't have to conduct it. You don't have to supervise it. There is a branch of the nervous system that runs in the background, handling the body's inner functions. We've already touched it when we spoke about the heart and the shift toward rest. This is the autonomic nervous system, and it does exactly what its name suggests. It works on its own, it regulates heart rate, it influences digestion. It adjusts the size of pupils in different light. It affects sweat glands and blood vessel tone. It nudges breathing patterns. It makes tiny corrections to keep you steady. You can imagine it as background music you don't have to conduct. It's playing beneath your day and beneath your night, and right now as you lie still, it's helping you slide toward a softer mode. If your body were a house, the autonomic nervous system would be the wiring and plumbing that keeps everything running while you're not paying attention to faucets and switches. Lights dim gently, temperature is adjusted, water continues to move where it needs to. The house stays livable. Sometimes when people feel anxious, they become more aware of these inner signals. A heartbeat feels louder, a breath feels strange, a stomach feels unsettled. This can make the mind start trying to take control, as if the best way to feel safe is to micromanage. But tonight you can practice a different feeling. You can practice letting the background systems be background. You can practice trusting that the body knows what it's doing. There's a word for the sense of what's happening inside you. Interoception. Interoception is your inner sensing. It's like having a quiet set of instruments inside, measuring temperature, fullness, heartbeat, breath, the subtle state of muscles, the chemistry of the blood. Most of the time it's a low hum. You don't notice it much. You just feel generally okay or not okay, calm or restless, hungry or comfortably full. But when you're tired or stressed, interoception can feel louder, like the volume has been turned up on internal sensations. If that's happening for you tonight, you can meet it with gentleness. You might say silently to your body, "I hear you. I'm listening," without panic. Because these sensations are not enemies. They're communication. They are part of the system that keeps you safe. And the brain is learning all the time. If you respond to sensations with calm attention, the brain learns that they are not emergencies. It learns that they can be present without needing alarm. So if you notice your heartbeat, you can notice it like you would notice a clock ticking, steady and unbothered. If you notice your breathing, you can notice it like you would notice a slow wave arriving. If you notice a flutter of energy somewhere, you can notice it the way you might notice wind moving through a curtain. It's just movement. In the nervous system, movement is normal. Signals are always flowing. The question is not whether signals exist, but how the whole network responds to them. And tonight, we can keep pointing the whole network towards safety. One way the brain moves towards sleep is by shifting its rhythms. During wakefulness, especially when you're thinking hard or worrying, the brain tends to be more active in faster patterns. When you relax, slower rhythms can become more prominent. You don't have to force this. Your brain naturally drifts there when the environment is quiet, when the body is supported, when there is no demand to react. Even your attention has a rhythm. Sometimes it locks onto something like a spotlight. Sometimes it softens into a wide glow like moonlight across a room. Sleep tends to arrive when attention becomes more like moonlight, not gripping, not searching, just gently shining. And there's another gentle truth hidden in all of this. Thoughts are signals too. They feel so personal, so meaningful, and they can be. But there are also patterns of activity in the brain. They rise and fall. They appear and shift. They're influenced by hormones, by sleep, by hunger, by memories, by quiet fears, by quiet hopes. If a thought appears tonight that isn't helpful, you don't have to wrestle with it. You can treat it as a signal that passed through, like a bird flying across a wide sky. Even thoughts are just one kind of signal, like clouds crossing a wide sky. You might imagine your mind as the night sky itself, and thoughts as clouds that don't need to be chased. They can pass. The sky remains. And while thoughts pass, deeper systems continue. The brainstem continues its steady adjustments. The autonomic nervous system continues its quiet caretaking. The nerves continue to message muscles, telling them they can soften. If you're still awake, you might take a slow breath now and let it out as if you're gently fogging a window, then clearing it again. And in that breath, you can feel a small kindness. You're not required to do all the work of being alive. You're allowed to rest inside a body that knows how to maintain itself. Now, as we glide onward, we can step into another deeply comforting idea, one that threads through breathing, circulation, and nerves alike. Balance. In biology, this balancing act has a name: homeostasis. Homeostasis can sound like a complicated word, but the feeling behind it is familiar. It's the feeling of a room turning comfortably warm again after a draft. It's the feeling of getting a sip of water when you're thirsty. It's the feeling of your body cooling down after being overheated. It's adjustment, returning, settling, and it's almost never perfect stillness. It's more like gentle hovering within a range, a constant small dance around a comfortable center. So if you ever worry that your body should be perfectly steady all the time, it may help to remember that life is built for small shifts. Life expects changes. Temperature changes. Activity changes. Emotions change. Eating and resting changes, and the body responds. One of the simplest cues of balance is thirst. Maybe you felt it tonight or earlier today, that slight dryness in the mouth, the thought of water, the comfort of swallowing. Thirst is not just a random craving, it's a message that your body's water balance is shifting. Your blood and tissues have a certain mixture of water and dissolved particles, and when that mixture becomes a little too concentrated, when there's relatively less water, the body notices. It sends a gentle signal. It encourages you to drink. If you've ever taken a sip of water and felt immediate relief, that's homeostasis in action, a tiny correction, a return toward comfort. But water balance is not only about water, it's also about salts and the minerals, tiny charged particles called electrolytes. Electrolytes include sodium, potassium, calcium, and a few others. They matter because they help electricity work in the body. They help nerves send signals. They help muscles contract and relax. They help keep fluid in the right places. You can imagine electrolytes as tiny keys that fit into tiny locks. When they're in the right places, doors open and close smoothly. Signals travel properly. Muscles rest when they should and tighten when they need to. Sodium and potassium in particular are part of a gentle dance across cell membranes. Cells keep different amounts of these ions inside and outside. This difference creates a kind of readiness, like a quiet battery, so that when a nerve needs to fire, it can. And again, you don't have to manage this. Your cells are constantly adjusting their inner and outer concentrations. Pumps and channels in their membranes move ions around with great care. This is part of what keeps your nervous system working, your heartbeat rhythmic, your muscles relaxed. It can be soothing to think of each cell as a small room with a careful doorkeeper, deciding what comes in and what goes out. Not strict, not harsh, just attentive. And while we're on this topic of chemistry and balance, there is another quiet protector in your body that is always being maintained. The pH of your blood. pH is a measure of how acidic or how basic a solution is. You don't need to remember the scale. You only need to remember that your body likes blood pH to stay within a narrow range. Not because it's picky, but because many proteins and enzymes work best within that range. They fold properly. They function properly. Like instruments tuned to the right temperature and humidity. The beauty is that your body has multiple systems to keep pH steady. Like multiple safety nets woven together. One net is buffering. The blood contains substances that can soak up extra acid or release it gently, helping smooth out changes. Like a sponge absorbing a small spill before it spreads. Another net is breathing. When carbon dioxide builds up, it can influence acidity. When you breathe out carbon dioxide, you're also participating in pH balance. You don't have to consciously do this. The breathing centers in the brainstem adjust ventilation based on the chemistry. It's all part of the same quiet intelligence. And another net is the kidneys. The kidneys work slowly, steadily, filtering blood, adjusting water and electrolytes, and helping maintain pH over longer periods. They're like patient caretakers who don't rush but who rarely stop. They decide what to keep and what to let go. They return what's needed. They release what's extra. You don't need to picture anything gross or harsh. You can picture the kidneys as two calm riverside stations, filtering and balancing, working without noise. They do not demand your attention, they simply continue. If you have ever felt comfort in the idea of someone cleaning up after a long day, putting things back in place, washing dishes quietly while you rest, that's the feeling of these balancing systems. Now, to connect water and electrolytes and balance, there is a gentle physical principle that helps explain why water moves the way it does. Osmosis. Osmosis is the movement of water across a membrane, from an area of lower solute concentration to an area of higher solute concentration, until things become more balanced. But you don't need the formal definition. You can feel it as a simple truth. Water tends to move toward where it's needed. Imagine two rooms separated by a doorway that only water can pass through. In one room there are more dissolved particles, more stuff in the water. In the other room, fewer. Water tends to drift toward the room with more dissolved particles because that's a way of balancing the concentration on both sides. It's not water being clever in a human way. It's water following the rules of nature. And your body is built to use those rules. You can imagine water in your body as a gentle crowd drifting toward open space, toward the place where it can spread out most evenly. No pushing, no chaos. Just a slow, natural tendency to balance. Cell membranes, again, are like attentive boundaries. Some things can pass easily. Some things need help. Cells work to keep their interior at a comfortable concentration. They adjust their ions. They manage their water. They maintain a soft kind of stability. And across trillions of cells, this becomes a whole body poem of balance. You might be surprised by how often the body is doing this. When you sweat, you lose water and salts, and the body adapts. When you drink, water enters the blood and the body adjusts. When you eat, electrolytes arrive and the body distributes them. When you breathe faster or slower, carbon dioxide shifts and the body responds. All of it is movement toward a comfortable range. So much of peace is simply balance. Inside cells, inside breath, inside you. And tonight, lying here, you don't have to achieve perfect balance by force. You don't have to fix anything with tension. You can simply allow your systems to do what they do best. Adjust gently over time. If you want, you can take another slow breath now. In and out. And as you breathe out, imagine the body doing a quiet inventory, temperature steady enough, oxygen arriving, carbon dioxide leaving, heart beating, signals flowing, water moving, salts in their places, pH held in its careful range. Not perfect, not rigid, but steady. If your mind tries to turn this into something you have to understand completely, you can let that impulse soften. You don't need to remember every term, you don't need to hold every detail. You're allowed to take only the feeling that you are supported by systems older than your worries, the feeling that your body knows how to return to center, the feeling that restful balance is not something you have to earn. It's something your biology is always reaching for, quietly, patiently, like a compass needle settling when the movement stops. And if sleep is nearby now, you can let it come closer. You can let the words fade a little at the edges. You can let the inner observatory dim its lights even further, instruments still measuring, still adjusting while you drift. In and out, balance and settle, signal more and soften. And you, safe in the middle of it all, can rest. If you're still awake, you can let yourself settle again, without effort. Feel the weight of your body where it meets the bed. Notice how the mattress meets you back, steady and quiet. And if your thoughts are still moving, that's okay. They can move like slow clouds, and you can rest underneath them. Somewhere inside, balance keeps balancing. Breath keeps exchanging, blood keeps flowing. Signals keep whispering along nerves. And when you're ready, we can drift into another system that has been caring for you in the background for your whole life, usually without introducing itself. Your immune system. Even the words immune system can sound serious, but tonight we'll hold it gently. We'll think of it as care, not conflict. As tending, not tension. Begin with something simple and familiar. Maybe you've had a small cut before. A paper cut, a scraped knee, a nick while cooking. At first it stings a little, then somehow in the following hours and days it closes, it knits, it changes from raw to sealed, from open to healed. Or maybe you've felt soreness fade after a long day, tight muscles easing, a bruise shifting colours and then disappearing, almost as if it gets bored and wanders off. Most of the time these changes happen without applause, without you having to instruct anything. You sleep and your body keeps cleaning and restoring. You wake and something is quietly better. That's the mood of the immune system. It is not a single thing. It's layered, like a set of gentle protections that work together. The first layer is simple and humble. Barriers. Your skin, for example, is not just a covering, it's a living boundary, a soft wall that keeps your inner world separate from the outer one. Not in fear, but in good design. It holds in moisture, it keeps out many things that don't belong, and it has its own little ecosystem of helpful companions that live on its surface. Your body also has other barriers. Linings in your nose, mouth and airways. Mucus, which sounds like an unglamorous word but is actually a very kind substance. It catches particles and helps move them out like a slow, sticky broom. Tiny hairs in your airways called cilia wave in coordinated motions, guiding that mucus upward so it can be swallowed or released. Almost like a moving walkway in a quiet hallway. It's gentle housekeeping, and it continues without you noticing. Then there are the patrols. Within your blood and tissues there are white blood cells, and different types have different job. Some are like quiet scouts, noticing signs of trouble. Some are like careful cleaners, swallowing up debris. Some communicate, sending chemical messages that coordinate responses. Some help remember, holding information so that next time the body recognizes a familiar pattern more quickly. If the body is a peaceful town, these cells are not harsh guards pacing with suspicion. They are caretakers, street sweepers, librarians, messengers, gardeners. They keep the environment healthy. One of the most misunderstood parts of immunity is inflammation. The word can sound alarming, but inflammation is often simply a repair signal, a way for the body to bring resources to a place that needs attention. It can involve warmth, redness, swelling, tenderness. Those are not punishments. They are signs of increased blood flow, of immune cells arriving, of tissues working through a repair process. You can picture it like warm work lights in a quiet room during a nighttime fix. A gentle brightening so small repairs can happen. And most of the time, inflammation is well controlled. It rises when needed, and it fades when the work is done, like a little crew arriving, doing their task, and then leaving the room clean. There are, broadly speaking, two big styles of immune response. One is faster and more general. It responds to patterns, to common features that often belong to things the body would rather not host. This is often called innate immunity. The other is more specific and more learned. It remembers, it tailors responses, it holds quiet memory of past encounters. This is often called adaptive immunity. You don't need to memorize these terms, but you can enjoy the feeling behind them. Fast and general, slow and specific. A quick first response and a thoughtful, longer memory. It's like having both an instinct and an education. If you think gently about it, that's a kind of wisdom, and it's happening inside you without you having to study for it. Another part of this story is the lymphatic system, which is connected to immunity and to fluid balance. The lymphatic system is like an extra set of pathways that help collect fluid from tissues and return it to circulation. It also helps carry immune cells and information. You can imagine it as quiet side streets connecting neighborhoods, not as busy as the main highways of blood vessels, but essential. It keeps the landscape from becoming waterlogged. It moves messages. It hosts little meeting points like lymph nodes, where immune cells can gather and exchange information. And because we're speaking in bedtime language, you can picture those nodes as calm little stations, softly lit, where caretakers check notes and decide what's needed. Now, the most comforting connection here, the one that belongs perfectly in the night, is how sleep relates to immune function. Sleep is not only rest for the mind, it's a time when the body can shift resources toward maintenance and repair. It's easier to do some kinds of housekeeping when the household is quiet, when muscles aren't demanding movement, when the senses aren't constantly responding to the outside world. So when you lie down, even if your mind is still busy, your body begins to interpret the posture and the environment as a chance to restore. Hormones and signals shift. The autonomic nervous system leans toward the restorative side. Tissues get time to repair. You don't have to force this. You can simply allow it. In that sense, choosing to rest is not laziness. It is cooperation. It is giving your biology the conditions it was designed to use. If you've ever felt a little more resilient after good sleep, that's part of why. Not because sleep makes life perfect, but because it gives your inner caretakers more space to do their work. So if you're still awake, and you're worried that being awake means you're missing out on recovery, you can soften that worry. Even lying here is part of the shift. Even being still is a kind of permission. And now let a tender thought land. While you sleep, your body practices kindness toward itself. If that sentence feels too emotional, you can take it in a simpler way. While you sleep, your body repairs, your body cleans, your body balances. Kindness can be as practical as maintenance. and the maintenance is ongoing. You can imagine a quiet team moving through you with soft steps, not waking you, just adjusting and tidying, smoothing and sealing, keeping things in good order. If you notice any tension as we talk about the immune system, you can relax your shoulders again. Let the jaw soften. Take a slow breath. Remind yourself that we're speaking of gentle care, in and out. Now we can drift to another deeply soothing topic, one that is always happening beneath the surface, like a small fire that never goes out but also never burns out of control. Energy. Metabolism, the quiet work of turning food into usable life. Begin with something familiar. Maybe you know the feeling of hunger as a gentle pull, the way a warm meal can bring comfort, the slight heaviness after eating when the body turns its attention inward. Or maybe you felt that bedtime heaviness when your whole system feels ready to power down, not because you're broken, but because the day's energy cycle is completing its loop. Metabolism is the word we use for the body's chemical processes that keep it running. It includes breaking down molecules, building molecules, making energy available, storing energy for later, and using energy to do everything from thinking to healing. But tonight, you don't need a textbook version. Tonight you can imagine your body as made of countless little rooms, cells, and inside many of those rooms are tiny power stations called mitochondria. Mitochondria have their own quiet mythos in biology, and for good reason. They are where much of the usable energy is made. They help transform the energy stored in food into a form the cell can spend, like converting a large bill into small coins you can use throughout the day. Those coins are called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. You don't need to repeat the phrase. You can let it be a soft acronym, like a little whisper of science. ATP is a molecule cells use to power work, muscles contracting, nerves maintaining their electrical readiness, proteins being made, membranes being maintained, repair processes happening. Even the simple act of keeping a cell's inside different from its outside takes energy, which means that even stillness is active. When you lie still, your body is not off. It is simply doing quieter work. If you've ever worried that resting means doing nothing, you can gently correct that thought tonight. Rest is a different kind of doing. It's doing inward. It's doing maintenance. It's a whole universe of small processes continuing with soft persistence. Now, how does food become energy? In broad strokes, food contains molecules like carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Your digestive system breaks these down into smaller components. Carbohydrates become sugars like glucose, fats become fatty acids, proteins become amino acids. These pieces are absorbed and carried into the blood and then distributed to cells. Glucose is one of the body's favorite quick energy sources, especially for the brain. But the body doesn't want glucose to be too high or too low in the blood, so it uses another balancing partnership. Hormones. One of the most well-known is insulin. Insulin helps glucose move from the blood into cells where it can be used or stored. Another is glucagon, which helps raise blood glucose when it drops by encouraging the release of stored glucose from the liver. You can think of insulin and glucagon as balancing partners, like two hands holding a tray steady. One helps bring levels down when they're high, one helps bring them up when they're low. The goal is not perfection, but a comfortable range. And because this is bedtime, you can picture the liver as a pantry, a calm storage space that holds energy for later. When you eat, some energy is stored. When you fast, especially overnight, some is released. Again, not dramatic, just responsive. At night while you sleep, your energy needs continue, but they change. You're not running, you're not lifting, you're not scanning the environment the way you do when awake. Your muscles are mostly resting, your eyes aren't processing light. Your mind is not making the same demands, even if it's dreaming. So the body's energy use can become more focused on internal processes, repairing tissues, consolidating memories, balancing chemicals, keeping the basic function steady. It can feel comforting to know that sleep is not just absence. Sleep is a mode, a setting, a purposeful state your nervous system and metabolism know how to enter. Now, energy and metabolism are connected to another very tangible nightly experience. Temperature. You can feel temperature so directly. The warmth under a blanket, the coolness of a pillow, the comfort of being just the right amount of warm. Not hot, not cold, just right. Your body works to keep its internal temperature within a narrow range. Again, homeostasis. Again, that gentle dance around a center. Heat is produced by metabolism. Every time cells make and use ATP, some energy becomes heat. This is not waste exactly. It's part of what keeps you warm. There's one reason living bodies feel warm compared to the air around them, and your body has ways to manage that heat. If you're too warm, blood vessels in the skin can open a little wider, bringing more blood closer to the surface so heat can dissipate. Sweating can release heat as the sweat evaporates, a quiet cooling effect. If you are too cool, blood vessels can narrow to conserve heat, keeping warmth closer to the core, and sometimes muscles can tremble slightly in shivering, producing more heat through movement. These are not scary switches, they are gentle adjustments. Your internal thermostat responding to your environment. At bedtime, temperature regulation becomes part of the sleep ritual. Many people feel sleepier when their core temperature drops slightly. The body uses blood flow changes to support that drift towards sleep. Warm hands and feet can help heat move out of the core, gently cooling it. That's one reason a warm bath can sometimes make you sleepy afterward, because it changes blood flow patterns and supports a cooling phase afterward, but you don't need to optimize anything tonight. You don't need to engineer your temperature. You can simply be aware of the kindness of the system. The body tries constantly to make the inner world comfortable enough for life. If you want, you can imagine your cells as little lamps in a large, quiet city, each lamp glowing softly. Not blazing, just glowing. And altogether, they create the warmth of you. Now we can zoom in again very briefly to the level of a single cell. Imagine the cell as a tiny room with a membrane as its wall. Inside there's soft machinery, not metal gears, but proteins folding and unfolding, building and breaking gently. There's a nucleus holding instructions, there are structures that make proteins, there are mitochondria turning nutrients into usable energy. And all around the cell is busy, but it doesn't feel busy. It feels steady. It's a quiet kind of life. And here is a comforting question to hold, one that doesn't ask for an answer. What would it feel like to trust the quiet work inside you, the way you trust the sunrise to arrive even while you're asleep? Because you can. The body's habits are ancient. Your cells do not need your worry to function. They do not require perfection from you. They require conditions, yes, like oxygen, water, nutrients and rest. But they also have a tremendous capacity to adapt, to adjust, to return. This is not a promise that everything is always easy. It's simply a reminder that the baseline nature of the body is regulation. It's always reaching for balance. Now, to keep this gentle, let's gather what we've touched into a soft, simple feeling. Your immune system is a caretaker, layered and patient, tending and repairing. Your metabolism is a quiet flame, converting and distributing, powering the smallest tasks that make life possible. And even now, while you're still, these processes continue. Your heart keeps the river moving. Your breath keeps the exchange going. Your nervous system keeps its soft messaging. Your chemistry keeps balancing. Your cells keep humming. Even stillness is an activity for your cells, a slow, careful kind of living. If you feel yourself drifting, you can allow it. If you're awake, you can stay with the words as lightly as you like. Either way, you are not doing this wrong. Take one slow breath in and let it out as if you're setting something down, in and out. And notice perhaps how comforting it is that your body is always working in the direction of care. In the next stretch of our quiet journey, we'll begin to connect these hidden systems to everyday moments and to the natural world around you in a way that feels soft and spacious. But for now, you can rest in this simple truth. You are being kept gently by biology, and you are allowed to sleep. If you're still awake, you can let your attention soften again. You don't need to hold on tightly to what you've heard. You can let it sink into the background, the way a lullaby becomes part of the room rather than something you have to follow. Feel the quiet support under you, and if your breath has changed since we began, that's perfectly natural. Breath changes the way light changes, slowly, without asking for permission. And now, with all those inner systems gently in mind, we can begin to connect them to the ordinary moments of a day, not to make anything more complicated, but to make it feel more familiar, because the deep biological systems keeping you alive are not hidden in some distant laboratory. They're right here, woven into the simplest things you do. Think of something as ordinary as climbing a few steps. You lift your foot, your muscles tighten and release in a smooth chain. Your heart notices the increased demand and begins to nudge the river a little faster. Your breathing quietly deepens just enough to bring in more oxygen and let out more carbon dioxide. Blood vessels shift their tone, directing more flow toward working muscles, and most of this happens without you having to think. You don't have to say, "Dear heart, please pump a little more now." It simply adjusts. You don't have to calculate how much oxygen you need. The exchange and the distribution respond in real time, like a well-practiced ensemble. It can be soothing to picture that ensemble as kind rather than strict. The body doesn't demand perfection. It responds to change. It adapts. It steers you back toward balance, not by scolding, but by shifting. Or think of a moment like sipping tea. Warm liquid touches the mouth and throat. Nerves in the tongue send signals that become sensation, flavor, comfort. The warmth spreads downward. Blood flow in the skin might subtly change as the body notices warmth. The digestive system begins to prepare for what's coming, even if it's just a small sip. There's a certain gentleness to digestion that's easy to forget. It's not only breaking down food, it's receiving, it's welcoming, it's turning outside substance into inside substance slowly and safely, like bringing wood into a home and letting it become part of the warmth. And when you turn in bed, even that small movement is a little conversation between systems. The nervous system sends messages to muscles. The vestibular system in the inner ear notices the change in orientation. The circulation shifts slightly as gravity changes how blood settles. A small adjustment, a tiny correction, and then you're still again. Your body is constantly responding to you, and you are constantly responding to your environment, and most of this is so smooth you rarely notice. Sometimes when we're anxious, we notice the body more sharply. We become aware of the heart, the breath, the stomach, and those sensations can feel unfamiliar simply because we're listening too closely. But in normal life, the body is like a well-run house. It hums. It breathes, it flows, it keeps the lights on. So here is a soft invitation for the night. You can practice noticing without magnifying. If you feel your heartbeat, you can let it be a distant drum, not a message of urgency. If you feel your breath, you can let it be a tide, not a task. If you feel sensations in your chest or belly, you can let them be weather, not warnings. Because the deep truth of these systems is that they are built to be dependable. Your heart is not improvising wildly. It is following rhythm shaped by biology and refined by feedback. Your lungs are not guessing. They are exchanging gases based on diffusion, on gradients, on membranes designed for that purpose. Your nervous system is not randomly firing in chaos. It is sensing and adjusting, filtering and coordinating. Your immune system is not constantly panicking. It is maintaining boundaries and managing repair with layers and checks. Your metabolism is not a candle about to blow out. It is a steady flame, fed by nutrients and regulated by hormones, changing its output depending on rest or activity. Sometimes it can help during the night to translate body sensations into gentle meanings. A slightly faster heartbeat can be the body shifting position, or processing a lingering thought, or simply doing a small adjustment. A deep breath can be a natural response to carbon dioxide levels, or a reflex that spreads calm through the stomach. A warm flush can be circulation changing, or temperature regulation doing its work. A stomach gurgle can be digestion moving along quietly and normally. It's all just life happening, and you don't have to narrate it. You don't have to interpret it in the harshest possible way. You can let it be what it is, a living system doing its living. Now, while you lie here, you might try something that is both simple and surprisingly powerful. A quiet moment of body gratitude. Not forced, not dramatic, just a small acknowledgement. You might choose one system, anyone, and offer it a soft thank you. Thank you, breath, for exchanging without being asked. Thank you, heart, for keeping the river moving. Thank you, nerves, for carrying messages and helping me sense comfort. Thank you, immune system, for tending and repairing. Thank you, cells, for humming along in the dark. You don't have to feel a rush of emotion. You don't have to make it spiritual or intense. Gratitude can be plain. It can be simple as noticing and allowing. Like nodding gently at the quiet staff of a hotel as you pass through a calm hallway. And if gratitude doesn't feel accessible tonight, that's okay too. You can simply switch to neutrality, a soft acknowledgement that these systems exist and they are working. Sometimes that's enough. Now, as we widen this view further, we can look at your body through the lens of the natural world. Because biology is not separate from nature. Your body is one of nature's forms, shaped by the same physics and chemistry that shape rivers, winds, and seasons. Think again about circulation. It really is like a river system. There's the powerful current of the larger vessels, the arteries and veins moving blood through the body's landscape. Then there are the capillaries, tiny and patient, reaching into tissues the way small streams reach into meadows and forests. And just like in the natural world, the most important exchanges happen at the edges, where water meets soil, where air meets leaf, where blood meets cell. Capillaries are like shorelines. It's along the shoreline that nutrients and oxygen drift into tissues, and waste products drift back into the blood to be carried away. It's not force, it's exchange. It's trade. It's a gentle conversation at a boundary. And the respiratory system, with its branching tubes and leaf-like alveoli, mirrors the shape of trees. Trees branch because branching is a good way to reach many places at once. Branching spreads access. It creates surface area. It allows exchange. Your lungs are a branching tree turned inward. Trees reach for light and carbon dioxide and release oxygen. You reach for oxygen and release carbon dioxide. It's a quiet symmetry. Even the very concept of homeostasis has parallels in nature. Nature rarely holds perfectly still. It also tends to hover. A forest isn't one static moment. It changes with the seasons, with rainfall, with temperature, with growth and decay. A shoreline isn't a fixed line. It shifts with tide, with wind, with currents. A climate on a local scale finds patterns, averages, ranges. It cools at night and warms in the day. It varies, but returns. Homeostasis is the body's version of that gentle return. A small shift happens because you move, or eat, or rest, or feel emotion, or step into warmth or cold. Then the body adjusts like a familiar rhythm. Not perfectly, not instantly, but steadily, and the immune system can be compared to a garden's maintenance. A garden needs boundaries like fences or edges simply to keep it organized and protected. A garden needs caretaking, removing what doesn't belong, supporting what does. A garden grows and sheds, leaves fall. Compost forms, new shoots appear. You can see the immune system that way, not as aggression, but as maintenance and repair. Cleaning up debris, supporting healing, remembering patterns, keeping the internal environment healthy enough for life to flourish. And in this garden, sleep is like nightfall. At night, the garden doesn't stop existing, it simply changes mode. The heat of day softens. Some flowers close, some creatures emerge. Moisture in the air shifts. The whole system continues just differently. Your body is like that too. Even while you sleep, you are alive in a rich way. Your cells continue their work. Hormones pulse in different patterns. The brain cycles through stages, some deeper, some lighter. The immune system tends. The metabolism continues, softer but steady. The heart keeps time. The lungs keep exchanging. You're not paused. You're cared for. Now, if your mind enjoys a gentle sense of wonder, we can zoom out even further, beyond the natural world you can touch, and into a wider perspective. Not to make you feel small in an uncomfortable way, not to make anything feel cold or distant, but to offer the kind of quiet awe that can sometimes soothe the mind, the way looking at a calm night sky can soothe. Because you are made of so many parts, working together so seamlessly that your experience feels like a single self, trillions of cells cooperating. Each cell is its own little world with boundaries, energy production, information storage, communication, and yet none of them is separate from the whole. They share resources, they respond to signals, they coordinate. You can imagine your body as a soft-lit city seen from far above at night, not the noisy kind of city, a quiet one, a city where most lights are dim, where there are no scenes, no harsh sounds, just the gentle glow of countless windows, each representing a cell doing its small work. Some streets are the blood vessels, moving supplies. Some are the lymphatic side streets and stations. Some are nerves, carrying signals like glimmers along lines. Some buildings are organs, each with a specialty, each contributing to the steady functioning of the whole. And in that city, you are not the mayor shouting instructions. You are the resident who gets to sleep, trusting that essential services continue. And there's something deeply comforting about that. So many things keep going without you having to hold them. We often feel, during anxious moments, that we have to manually keep ourselves together. That if we loosen our grip, everything might fall apart. But the truth is gentler. You're not manually holding yourself together. Life is an effortless collaboration happening within you. Even if your mind is tired, even if your thoughts are messy, even if you feel uncertain, the collaboration continues. The deeper systems keep doing their work. And when you look at timescales, there's another quiet wow hidden in the body. Your heartbeat is like a metronome across your life. Beat after beat, day after day, the heart keeps time, adjusting to your needs, responding to movement and rest, to emotion and sleep, yet always returning to its rhythm. Your breath is like a tide, in and out, a constant exchange, a constant return, sometimes faster, sometimes slower, but always finding its way back to a pattern. And these tiny repeating patterns echo larger patterns in nature. The turning of the earth brings day and night. The moon shapes tides, seasons drift in and out. Stars pulse and burn for ages, their own slow rhythms. Your body has rhythms too, not only the obvious one like breath and heart, but also daily rhythms called circadian rhythms. Hormones rise and fall, sleep pressure builds and releases, temperature shifts, appetite shifts, alertness shifts. You don't have to manage these rhythms perfectly. You only have to live within them. And tonight, you're doing the simplest, most natural thing a rhythmic creature can do. You're moving toward rest. If you're still awake, you might notice that sleep sometimes arrives in layers. First, the body grows heavier. Then the thoughts grow softer around the edges. Then the sense of me becomes less sharp, more like a gentle haze. And inside that haze, the systems continue. Sometimes it can soothe the mind to remember how old these systems are. Not old in your personal timeline, but old in evolutionary time. Breathing is ancient. Circulation is ancient. Cellular energy making is ancient. The basic idea of exchanging gases, moving nutrients, balancing water and salts, repairing tissue, is part of the deep heritage of living things. You are carrying that heritage in your chest, in your blood, in your cell. And you don't have to be perfect to carry it. It carries itself. Now let's bring this back to you right here, in your room. If your mind has been wandering far, you can let it come closer, like a bird returning to a familiar branch. Notice the quiet soundscape, maybe the faint hum of a fan, the distant quiet of a street, a small creak of a building settling, or maybe just the sound of your own breath. And if there's silence, let it be kind. Take a slow breath in and let it out gently. And consider for a moment how many layers of care are happening at once. Air is exchanging in the lungs. Blood is moving through vessels. Nerves are carrying whispers of sensation and letting muscles soften. Chemistry is balancing water and salts, pH and temperature. Immune caretakers are tending and repairing. Cells are making and spending tiny coins of energy, keeping their rooms lit. All of that is happening, and you are not required to direct any of it. You can rest inside the system. If you find yourself thinking, "What if I can't sleep?" you can answer softly, "It's okay." Rest is still restorative. Stillness still helps. Breathing still exchanges. Circulation still flows. Even if you drift in and out, even if you hover in that twilight state, your body is still in a safer, quieter mode than when you are up and active. And if you fall asleep mid-sentence, nothing will be lost. The deep systems will keep going. The story will keep holding you. Sometimes it can help to pose a gentle question, not to solve, but to loosen the mind's grip. What happens if you stop trying to fall asleep and simply allow sleep to find you? Sleep is not something you chase, it's something you permit. It arrives when the conditions are right, and part of making conditions right is softening the effort, easing the control, letting the body take the lead. You might imagine your whole body as a boat on calm water. You don't have to row hard to reach sleep. You can let the current carry you, slowly, steadily. The current is your biology. The calm water is your environment. The softness is your permission. And as we continue, we'll begin to let the information become simpler, more rhythmic, more meditative so that the mind can unwind further. For now, you can let this gentle perspective settle in your chest like warmth. You are a living system. You're a quiet collaboration. You're supported by deep, steady processes that do not demand your attention. Take one more slow breath in and out. And if you're ready to drift closer to sleep, you can. If you're not ready, you can still rest here listening lightly, feeling the soft hum of life continuing steady and kind. If you're still awake, you can let your eyelids be heavy, as if they're resting in their own gentle way. There's no need to follow every sentence now. You can listen as loosely as you like, the way you might listen to rain, sometimes hearing it clearly, sometimes letting it fade into the distance. Your body will keep doing what it does, quietly, faithfully. And now we can begin to drift into a softer phase where we revisit what we've explored, but in simpler shapes. Not piling on new details, just letting the same calm ideas return, like waves that keep arriving with the same familiar sound. You can think of it as letting the mind settle into rhythm, in and out. Flow and return, sense and soothe, balance and settle. As you breathe in, remember the quiet exchange in your lungs, branching pathways like an inward tree ending in tiny leaf-like sacs where oxygen drifts into the blood without drama. As you breathe out, carbon dioxide drifts back, leaving you with the ease of release. In and out, air exchanging, soft trade, quiet drift. And while that exchange continues, blood moves like a slow river through you. Not rushing, not forcing, simply flowing. The heart squeezes and releases, opening and closing its gentle doors. Blood travels out through the arteries, returns through veins, and along the way it visits capillaries, the shorelines where the real exchange happens. Flow and return, river and sea, beat and rest. If you notice your heartbeat now, you can let it be a lullaby drum, a small steady timekeeper in the dark. If you don't notice it, that's okay too. It doesn't need your awareness. It only needs its rhythm, which it already has, and inside that steady movement, your nervous system continues its quiet whispering. Signals glide along nerves like tiny sparks that never burn. Messages cross synapses as chemical notes, soft and brief. Sensation becomes comfort, muscle becomes ease. The brain becomes quieter in its own slow way, shifting its attention from spotlight to moonlight. Sense and soothe, signal and soften, thought and drift. If a thought floats by, you don't have to grab it. You can let it pass across the wide sky of your mind. You can return to sensation, to the feeling of the bed, to the rhythm of breath, to the steady inner river, and beneath these rhythms the chemistry of balance continues, water moving where it's needed, salts and minerals in gentle places, cells holding their boundaries like quiet rooms, keeping that inside comfortable, the body hovering within a range, not rigid, not perfect, simply steady enough, balance and settle, cool and warm, adjust and return. And there's a kind of comfort in the idea of return. Because return means you don't have to stay tense all the time. Return means that if something shifts, the body has ways to guide back. Return means life is built for small wobbles, and it knows how to recover. You can let that comfort spread. Now, the immune system too continues in the background, gentle and patient. barriers at the edges, caretakers within, repair signals rising when needed, then fading when the work is done, quiet tidying, soft restoration. The small miracles of healing happening without applause, tend and repair, clean and restore. Quiet and kind. And metabolism continues, the tiny fires in every cell not blazing, just glowing. Mitochondria turning nutrients into usable energy. ATP being made and spent like little coins, powering the smallest tasks. Even in stillness, the hum continues. Even in rest, the work continues, but it becomes softer, more inward. Glow and hum, spend and remake, rest and renew. If you like, you can imagine your body again as a soft-lit city at night. Not a loud city, not a busy city, but one that is safe enough to dim its lights. A city where essential services continue quietly, where tiny caretakers move through calm streets, where windows glow with faint light, where there is no rush, only steady continuity. And you, the resident, are allowed to sleep. You don't have to patrol the street yourself. You don't have to manage every lamp there. You don't have to keep watch. You can let the city keep itself. Now bring your attention to the most basic rhythm again. In and out. If you want, you can breathe as if you're breathing in warm light and breathing out anything you no longer need to carry. Not forcing, just imagining. Warm light in, soft release out. In and out. And as you exhale, you might feel the shoulders sink a little more, as if gravity is a kind friend. You might feel the jaw soften, the tongue resting. You might feel the hands heavy, fingers loose. You might feel the belly rise and fall without effort. If you're holding any tension anywhere, you don't have to hunt it down. You can simply let the next exhale be a gentle invitation to soften. And if nothing changes, that's okay too. The invitation itself is enough. Now, let the words become even simpler. Air exchanging, blood flowing, signals soothing, balance settling, repair continuing, cells humming. You don't need to remember, you don't need to understand, you can just let it be true. Sometimes the mind tries to stay awake by asking questions, even quiet ones. What if tomorrow is hard? What if I forgot something? What if I can't handle what's coming? If those questions appear tonight, you can meet them with a soft answer that doesn't fight. Not now. Tonight is not for solving. Tonight is for resting. The solving can wait for daylight. And there is something very kind about postponing, like placing a letter back into an envelope and saying, "I'll open you later." So if a worry arrives, you can picture yourself placing it gently on a shelf, not throwing it away, not denying it, just setting it down. And returning to the basic rhythms again, in and out. Flow and return, sense and soothe, balance and settle. Now, in this drift phase, you might imagine tiny caretakers moving through your inner city. One caretaker walks through the lungs, checking each little alveolus, making sure the exchange is smooth, smoothing the airways like polishing glass. Another caretaker checks the heart's rhythm, not changing it much, just listening, adjusting the tempo slightly toward calm. Another caretaker moves through the blood vessels, gently opening and narrowing where needed, guiding warmth and flow. Another caretaker visits the kidneys, patient and slow, checking the mixture of water and salts, returning what's needed, releasing what's extra, keeping the inner ocean softly balanced. Another caretaker walks through the immune gardens, trimming, cleaning, tending, supporting the slow knitting of tissues. And everywhere in every room, little cell lamps glow, mitochondria humming, ATP coins being made and spent, the quiet economy of life continuing. You don't need to visualize it perfectly. You can let it be a feeling, a sense of being cared for in the dark, a sense of gentle work continuing while you rest. Now, let's slow the pace even more. Notice the space between words. Notice the little pauses. They are like soft pillows for the mind. In and out. Air exchanging in and out. Blood flowing in and out. Signal softening in and out. Balance returning. If you fall asleep during these repetitions, it's fine. That is what they're for. And if you're awake, you can simply keep floating. Now, a few gentle lines can repeat like a mantra, not as a demand, but as a calm reminder. Your body knows, your body keeps, your body restores, your body knows, your body keeps, your body restores. You can let those phrases drift over you like a warm cloth. Your body knows how to breathe. Your body knows how to flow. Your body knows how to balance. It has been practicing for your entire life, and it will continue to practice tonight. Now, another gentle question, one that doesn't need an answer. What if rest is also a kind of science? What if sleep is not just absence, but a process? A biological setting, a gentle mode, and what if you don't have to force that mode, only allow it? Now, to help the mind fade a little further, you might focus on one simple sensation, the coolness of air at the nostrils, or the warmth of the blanket on the chest, or the heaviness of the legs sinking. Choose one, or let one choose you. Hold it lightly and let everything else soften. In and out, flow and return, sense and soothe, balance and settle. Now we'll begin to ease toward a quiet ending, not a sharp one, just a gradual fading. A calm summary, like a final soft wave. Tonight we wandered through the deep biological systems that keep you alive, the quiet exchange of breath, the steady river of blood, the gentle whispering of nerves, the balancing chemistry of water and salts and the patient tending of the immune system, the small glowing work of energy in every cell, all of it continuing without you having to direct it, all of it steady enough for you to rest. So if you're awake, you can let your attention loosen even more. If you're asleep, you can simply remain asleep, and the words can pass by unheard, which is exactly fine. You don't need to track anything. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to do anything more tonight. You've done enough for today, and now you can let go. Let the breath continue. Let the heart continue. Let the quiet caretakers keep their gentle routines. Let the inner city dim its lights. Let the night hold you. Good night. And as the words fade, the rhythms remain. In and out, flow and return, sense and soothe, balance and settle. And you, safe and supported, can drift as long as you need into softer and softer quiet.